gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of The Month Gone By, where we bring to you the key insights, latest happenings, and everything around the Indian automobile industry that has happened in the previous month, that was October 2023. Now, it's important to understand that this month is important for the industry, the OEMs, dealers, and the consumers, because the festive season accounts, the entire festive season accounts 27 to 30% of the annual sales of the industry. The season, which began in August and will be ending in the next 2 weeks, is crucial for the industry. Let's hear from our industry expert, Mr. Arun Malhotra. Thank you for joining us, sir.
Thank you.
So we have heard, the festive sentiment is going good. The consumers are positive about the demand, but OEMs are expecting a record festive season. But the situation is different for every segment if we look around that. So if you could take us through, how is the momentum in the passenger vehicles and the two-wheelers probably, which are in the highest demand in the country?
So passenger vehicles has been rising up month by month. Last month was an all-time record, September 3.65. It's moved to 3.9 lakhs. It's an all-time figure high. And to that extent, it's a very positive side. Sales also have been good. I mean, started with the festival season, as you mentioned previously. It's also starting with the festival season of Navratri. But from my perspective, the expectation was even higher. Because today the sales are good, but still dealers are sitting on 6 week stock. And the only festival which is left is now Dhanteras and Diwali. So ideally, the sales are good, but I wouldn't call them outstanding, the passenger vehicles concerned. But one thing we must consider, it was starting from a high base. Plus, in the last 3 months, the availability of products was good. So a lot of customers did take sales, took decisions to purchase vehicles. So overall, good, but month of reckoning will be December. As far as two-wheelers is concerned, the buzz is that the growth has been much higher than the four-wheeler, which is actually correct. But the point which has to be kept into consideration is that the base was low in two-wheelers and still two-wheelers are nowhere near the all-time high. But overall two-wheeler market has been good also. We've done about 18 lakhs dispatches of vehicles. Retails will be in the region of 15 lakhs. And they expect a big spurt coming in the Dhanteras Diwali. So overall good numbers, but it's a time for caution because these numbers cannot be sustained over November, December. I'm predicting, I'm sticking my neck out. December will be a month where people will get phenomenal schemes and phenomenal offers. That's the way I look at it.
Good for the consumers at least.
Yeah, good
right.
for the consumer.
Also, if we look at the PVs and the two-wheelers particularly, in the PVs we have seen SUV is riding the demand, and in the two-wheelers, premium two-wheelers are taking the demand up. So in both the segments, the entry level is in a state of struggle, or there is a concern there. How do you see that going forward?
So in passenger vehicle, it is the way you define the entry level. I mean, the general entry level will be vehicles, the smaller vehicles which were below 3.6 meters, the Alto, the Quid or the Espresso. That segment has shrunk dramatically. That segment is not even more than 3%. But the moment you move to a slightly level above, the Baleno, the Swifts, the Desires, the i10s, then the market is slightly still bigger. So to that extent, people are upgrading, people are moving up. So it's not impacted as far as the four-wheeler is concerned. But as far as the entry-level two-wheelers are concerned, it contributed a large segment, 35 to 40%. And there, the shrinkage, it just can't be passed on to the premium. So that is one of the reasons why, in spite of this growth, in spite of the positivity, we are still nowhere near the 2018-19 numbers. And I don't think we'll be anywhere near whether this year or next year. So that's the difference between two-wheelers and four-wheelers. Four-wheelers also, financing is easier, people's aspirations are higher, they're able to move up. But at the entry level where they have to bear the crunch, whether it's the rural incomes being less or at the lower end of the business, that's where the pressure is more. So that's why you're feeling part of it. People are, in two-wheelers also are upgrading, but not to the extent. And that's why the total numbers doesn't rise.
Right. Also, this year 2023 is also being seen as the first normal year, with no production constraints, a lot of new models being launched, the SUV segment rising up like anything. Even the average ticket price of a vehicle has gone, close to like almost 10 lakhs now. So, the demand is good. OEMs are betting on a high record festive season. But as we talked about, PVs are on a high. Two-wheelers are yet to recover, right? So, but this is also the season of sales plus the earnings. as the quarter has just ended. So we have got the financial results of a few companies, component companies, and the OEMs. How do you see that? I mean, the average price of a vehicle going up is maybe complementing that, but what could be the other factors? That everything is on a record high, or
So, one thing's unique, what you rightly mentioned, is the average ticket size has gone up. In the last 1 year, the average ticket size of passenger vehicle has gone up by 15%. So, in value terms, it makes a difference in the company, and the commodity prices have been more benign at this point of time. So, if you look at the results which have come in, whether you look at the results of Maruti Suzuki, 70% increase in profit, look at results of Hero, 45% increase in profit over the last quarter, same year. Also on TVS 35%, and one of the auto ancillaries, Sona Comstar, again 45% increase. So effectively, the increase is much more in may not seem in number terms, but in value terms, and then in profitability terms. So if there's an increase of 6% in numbers, it's an increase of 15% revenue in profitability is much more. So, and the way I look at the stock market, these results are that these are also a reflection not only of the current performance, but in a way mirrors the positivity or the expectation or the potential of the future. And one hard fact which you must keep in mind, if you take this calendar year from January 1st to till today, when we are sitting on the figure, the date of 2nd November, the Nifty has gone up by 4%, and the Nifty Auto has gone up by 25%. Now that's stark, very stark, which shows auto clearly is riding the wave, not only in numbers, but more even in the stock market.
Right, that's true. So, next trend that we have been constantly tracking in the industry is the EVs, with all the talks around the alternative fuels and the EVs. So, how do you see that segment, probably in the passenger vehicle and the two-wheelers?
So, if I take two-wheelers, there was some brakes applied about 4 months back when government reduced the incentive from the FAME policy, and it affected the 30,000 rupees which manufacturers had to take 15-20,000. So two things emerged. Slowly, steadily they are rising. It was 55, 60, 65, and last month has been 75, 77,000. Not record numbers, but it is improving, and people see it as a good alternative. Because if you look at scooters only, the penetration has touched something like 17-18%. The challenge there is motorcycles, since there's no viable player. That's the reason why the penetration is seen on that segment. But clearly that is improving clearly, and there are more number of serious players who are very strong in competing each other, which is making the market grow. Whereas passenger vehicles, I find some sort of a stagnation in the last 2-3 months. Nothing. There are 8-9 players, but the real serious players are one or two. Others are probably waiting the wings or putting the act together. So it is more muted, and the government benefits also not to that extent. And also you find certain states are starting withdrawing. Maharashtra withdrew something 5-6 months back. Telangana had this road tax exemption, which is rude. So that's impacting it. So within two-wheelers and four-wheelers, clearly two-wheelers is riding the wave on EV. Four-wheeler, other thing is that the other alternatives also available. You have CNG available, you have flex fuel available, you have hybrid available. So there's a basket of various technologies available, whereas in two-wheelers, the only alternative to petrol is clearly the same. So that's the difference between the two-wheelers and four-wheelers. So two-wheelers are better bet, and then three-wheelers are next part of it.
True. Just to add to that, in passenger vehicles, the demand for EVs is more in the premium segment, probably because of the price bracket also. The consumer can own that. But here in the entry level, the EVs, if the price goes up, that might be a bit difficult, yes. Also, earlier we were seeing, like as we talked about the entry level segment not performing as much as it used to, where are those consumers going? Probably in the passenger vehicle segment, if we see the entry level consumer could probably go to the used car market, but that also has its, it's not that organized a bit. I mean, there are many players now, but it's not that organized. So how do you see the entire used car market here? What are the trends that you're observing?
So
similar to the new car market?
So intuitively, one would assume that people who cannot afford a certain price point, they would buy those vehicles in the used car market. That's the intuitive sense what makes about it. And one of the challenges in the used car market in India is that there are 4 or 5 different segments. There are the unorganized players, there is a direct customer to customer sale, there are some independent manufacturers which are more online, there are some online, physical, then there are companies who run their own exchange program. But having seen all that in the organized segment, if you talk to them, they are saying there also the average ticket size is rising, and
Okay.
there even the demand which is there is mirrored of vehicles which are also mirrored in the new car market 6 months or a year back.
Okay.
Like the real pull or the demand at the moment, what is in shortage is the compact or the SUVs. Interior vehicles are available, not that they are not selling. So to that extent, the used car market, in terms of desires, aspirations, is also to a large extent mirroring it. It might be different in the small rural markets or totally unorganized place. So that's one part of it. The second part, I think financing is coming to age. Financing used to be just about 15 to 17% in the used car market. Now it's reached 35 to 40%. Although rates are 3% higher. But the way I see it is, it will mirror the new market, and the customer is not very dramatically different except in the rural.
Okay.
So I don't think that this large dip which happens goes totally to the used car which is there.
Okay.
That customer also in the same price who want a better way. That's the way
Right.
it's behaving. So it's an interesting trend, and this trend can vary, but that's the reality, the way it stands today.
Yeah, so what I understand is the consumer aspirations are the same across. What is stopping them is probably the price band.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, so just lastly, like how do you see the year going forward, this financial year, probably the next 5-6 months?
So, it's very difficult to hazard the future. I think the challenge today is all marketing people are trying to hazard what is going to happen in the next 10 days. Because the Dhanteras Diwali will be over in 10 days' time, and that's where people are depending on, because they had a burst in the Navratras. After that, there's been a slight lull. So they're putting the bets correct on that. But the way I think the production is geared up, and the Dil Mange More sentiment which is prevailing manufacturers and dealers, I want to sell more, more, more. It will ensure that this end of the festival season, they will still have good stocks. So that will be a phenomenon which will be after 4-5 years, because either there was shortage or whatever you might say. So clearly at the end of the festival season, the availability is good, and people want a newer model today from the time of registration, not at the time of producing the vehicle. So probably in December we'll see a new action, new activity.
Yeah.
And January, March should be okay, but all the growths are coming to single digits growths, which we are seeing, whether in two-wheelers, whether in this area. The only segment which is not talked of is the three-wheeler segment, which had gone down dramatically, which is showing a real spurt. There the growths are 30-40%. But that's the way you look at it.
Yeah, so single digit growth for the
4 to 7%, that will be
yeah.
the thing, whether it's a commercial vehicle, whether it's a
Right.
two-wheeler, or whether it's passenger vehicles, but in that range it will be there.
All right. Thank you so much, sir, for your time, and keep watching ET Auto for more updates. Thank you.
Thank you.